So it's no real secret. Overall interest in photography has definitely decreased in the last couple years. I mean, just look around. Photographers on Instagram are struggling to get the engagement they got years ago. Photographers on YouTube, like myself, are struggling to get views on videos just strictly about photography, going out and making photos, whereas videos about gear and tech and business and social media all seem to do fine still. There's definitely been some type of shift in the community of people who strictly care about the art and creativity of photography. And personally, I do find this a little bit disappointing and discouraging. If you know my backstory, you know that in 6th grade I won a statewide for Georgia photography contest. It's this thing in public schools called Reflections. I had the best photo amongst all the 6th graders, and that was really the moment I fell in love with this, and it sparked me pursuing this as a career, me making this YouTube channel, and it's the reason why I've always put art and creativity first in all the videos that I try to make about photography, even if there's a product involved. So to see the community of people interested in that shrink over the years is definitely a little bit of a bummer. But this video is not intended to be negative or depressing or be one of these videos that's like, the photography world is done, this is all over. It's more of a logical outlook on why photography is in this little bit of a rut that it's in, and my intention is to be positive and give you insight on the mindset you can keep around creativity and art in the world that we're in now, so you don't lose the joy around photography for a reason that is actually not the best reason. So let's get into it, and big shout out to Squarespace, our sponsor in today's video. We'll talk about them a little bit later on, but the first reason I think photography is in a little bit of this slump right now is strictly due to economic squeeze. You know, the economy in America, at least, I don't know about the rest of the world, I've never lived in your country, I'm sorry, is a little bit rough right now. The cost of living has definitely increased in the last couple of years. They're calling it the cost of living crisis, I guess. But when people don't have as much disposable income to spend on hobbies and pick up new things to learn, something that costs thousands of dollars to get into is going to be one of the first things people overlook. Photography, at the end of the day, is a very expensive hobby. So if you're fortunate enough to own a camera and still go out and make pictures, recognize that that's actually a blessing and something you should be very happy about, because right now, given the cost of everything, there's a lot of people out there who maybe would be interested in going out and making pictures, and they simply don't have the luxury to afford it. So with photography being such an expensive hobby, I think right now we're just simply in a time period where it doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of people to take an interest in it. And hopefully as times get better, that will continue to change, and photography will be like a lot of hobbies and interests out here that just goes through its cyclical periods of up and down as far as overall popularity in the world. Now, the second reason I think photography is in this little bit of a rut is actually a piggyback off of economic squeeze, which is now a time constraint associated with something like photography. You see, when people don't have a lot of money, they're typically going to work more to make more money or pick up a side hustle, and when you do that, you obviously have less time. Everyone's life is busy as it is. So when it comes to something like photography, which is a pursuit that usually takes a lot of time to do, most people just don't have that luxury right now. You know, hobbies like fitness and cooking and reading and writing, they're all things you can do at home with realistically like an extra 30 minutes in your day, whereas photography is extremely difficult to do with a small window of time, like an extra 30 minutes. You have to go to a location that's interesting. Maybe if you're fortunate enough to live somewhere that's beautiful and interesting right outside your front door, you can make it happen. But for the average person who's interested in photos, right now having hours and hours to dedicate to go to a location, walk around, get the creative juices flowing, get home, edit photos is just not a luxury that they have. And hopefully, once again, as things begin to improve as time goes on, more people will have that luxury again, and more people will take an interest in photography. But speaking of time constraints, that sort of leads to the third issue, which is the time it takes to create social media content centered around photography. At the end of the day, people are going to take an interest in what they see a lot of. You know, when Instagram first started, one of the reasons why photography got so popular was because people were seeing a lot of beautiful photos on Instagram and thought, hey, I want to replicate that. I want to travel. I want to do this. Where now social media content has changed to this video video-oriented format where photography doesn't exactly have a place. Someone who pursues another hobby or another craft, like let's say, I don't know, reading or writing or cooking or fitness, can produce videos at a much higher frequency than someone who is into photography because of the time constraint of photography. That time constraint applies to social media as well. So I think photographers are just getting lost in the sheer volume of social media content out there. And this doesn't just affect photographers, it affects musicians as well. It's the reason why the music world is kind of in shambles right now. It affects artists and painters, anyone who's making something that takes a lot of time. It's so difficult to stand out and be seen on social media and draw in the interest of the masses. Photography, unfortunately, with the way social media is now, has turned into more of a niche thing that people are interested in because the content isn't as readily available as some other topics. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that creating your photos and creating video media around photography is just so much more time consuming than other things. And that time consumption element also deters people from trying to get into photography as a way to make money or grow an audience on social media, because honestly, why choose photography as a way to build a brand or cultivate an audience online when there's so many other avenues that require less work and can take advantage of the sheer volume that's necessary to grow on social media now? And speaking of social media, the fourth reason I think we're in this rut right now is because of the introduction of interest-based algorithms on social media. You see, the sheer volume of social media content that's being published every day has people's feeds now being based on their interests. Obviously, if you have a Twitter account or X, whatever it's called, TikTok or Instagram Reels, you know that you're fed more content of whatever it is that you're interested in. Now, once again, with something like fitness or cooking, these videos can show up over and over again because there is a clear-cut interest that the algorithm can tap into. With photography, it's hard to put photography into a distinct box that can create content that can be fed to someone over and over and over again. Even take basic tech, for example. Tech is a nice category that people can talk about phones, talk about computers, talk about video games, computers, all this stuff. It falls into the tech category, whereas generalized photography doesn't work the same way because sometimes your photo might be of a landscape. Sometimes a photo could be a street photo. It could be a cityscape photo. There's so much variety in photography and the types of content you can make around photography. I think that these algorithms are causing photography just to sort of be left in the dust with the sheer volume of content being shared online. And the same thing goes for musicians out there. Unless you're making the exact same thing over and over and over again, which most artists don't want to do, it's going to be really hard to stand out on social media nowadays based on these algorithms. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have an answer or a silver lining to that one. I don't love the fact that social media has just turned into this dartboard where you're just throwing stuff at a wall hoping something sticks. But right now, it just is what it is, and you got to make the best of it. And remember that everyone's dealing with the same issues in the photo world. So if you're someone trying to grow on social media, hey, everyone has the same struggles as you. It's not unique to you. But one thing that you can do to make sure you're optimizing your social media is making sure that you have a website and a product available. So as people find you, they can potentially purchase something from you or book you for a job. They can contact you through your website. And that's where today's sponsor, Squarespace, comes into play. My website, evanranft.com, is built on Squarespace. And with Squarespace's e-commerce tools, I'm able to easily sell my products like my photo books, my presets, as well as my prints. And with Squarespace payments, I'm able to manage all of my transactions in one place without having to switch services. And I'm not a coder and I'm definitely not a designer, but with Squarespace's award-winning templates, normal people like you and me are able to create a beautiful and professional looking website with ease. And if you're looking to take things to the next level, Squarespace introduced Design Intelligence, which is a cutting-edge AI tool that allows you to get inspiration for your design utilizing the 20 years of web design experience that Squarespace has to offer. So no matter what you're trying to do, if you're trying to sell a product, if you're looking to contact your customers with email marketing, if you're looking to have a contact me page on your website so clients can get in touch with you, or you're just looking to showcase your work in a beautiful way with a portfolio, Squarespace is the answer. And Squarespace is hooking up the channel with a free trial. Just go to squarespace.com/EvanRanth and use code EvanRanth to save 10% at checkout. And if you're someone who's a little bit overwhelmed at the process of building a website, check out the website resources tab in the description on this video. There's a number of different videos linked down there going over all the different ways that you can use Squarespace with step-by-step instruction. And while you're following one of those videos, go to squarespace.com/EvanRanth to start a free trial and use code EvanRanth to save 10% at checkout when you send your site live. Big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So the fifth reason why I think the photography world is in this bit of a rut right now is simply caused by the fears of AI. Now, personally, I think AI is going to be something that doesn't replace artists because there is a human element to art and creation that just has to be there. But I do think that AI is something that's going to make people's lives easier when used properly. But the fear around AI that I think most people have, including myself, is that the people running AI don't look at art as an actual human expression. They look at art as a commodity. There is an AI music software out there. I forgot what it's called, but basically the CEO did an interview where he was talking about how most people don't like the process of creating music, and their AI makes it easier to create music. And artists like you and me look at that and think that's kind of the point. Like, the point of making music is learning the process to make music and enjoying the years of work that it takes to craft something interesting. And unfortunately, I think that same sentiment is sometimes how people think about photography and AI. They think, why have a human create this when I can have a robot or artificial intelligence make this? Is that necessarily going to happen? I don't think so. I hope not, but it is scary when the people running these companies don't look at art as a human expression. They look at it as a simple commodity and think, hey, photography looks cool. Instead of making you go out with a camera, let's allow you to do it on the computer. That's like a whole other topic. It's like a very matrixy type thing that I don't love. Like I said, I've been doing this since I was a kid. I love taking my camera out and like physically making something with a camera. So it's really weird to think that like the people making all this AI stuff don't see that and think it just should be something we can snap our fingers and do. It kind of like defeats the purpose. But I digress. It's a little bit of a rant there, but I think AI fears is definitely a reason why people are hesitant to get into photography, because they're thinking, is this even going to be a thing in a couple years? Now, number 6 on this list is smartphones. Now, I think that smartphones have caused a little bit of a rut in the photography world for a reason that's a little bit obscure. On this channel, I've made a number of videos about smartphones. It's actually something I really enjoy. I love taking those cameras out and seeing what I can do with them. But the idea behind those videos is me pushing the smartphone to its limit and seeing how good can we get with this smartphone. What type of photos can we make? But I think the general sentiment around most people, unfortunately, is that I have a phone. Why do I need a camera? Because the phone can do a good job at a lot of stuff, people are unwilling to go deeper into the actual nuance and art of photography, learning how to use a camera, learning how a lens works, learning how to make pictures that are lifelike and interesting and really document the experience of being a person and creating art. They just think, hey, I got the phone. The phone has portrait mode. It makes a blurry background. Cool. So I think smartphones, in a way, have created this weird separation between people who want to go deeper into the craft of photography, the same way I talked about with AI and music, people who want to dive into the process of making music, learn to love that process, the same way you and me learn to love the process of photography. Unfortunately, ease of use of smartphones has made less people interested in that really dedicated process of actually learning a craft. So I think smartphones, while they've made more people interested in making photos, has actually led to a decrease in people who are really interested in learning the deep art of making photography and all the things that come with it and really falling in love with the process. Now, number 7 on this list is the fact that photographers now are really struggling just to be photographers from a business standpoint. Now, I've talked about this a lot in business videos. I don't see a problem with with photographers learning video and understanding marketing, but in today's world, it seems like everything that I get booked for as a photographer has a video element. Now, I had the luxury of making this YouTube channel years ago and understanding how to make video, but if you're someone who doesn't necessarily like that, it is a little bit discouraging to think I can't just be a photographer. Like, I just want to make pictures. I just want to work with clients. I just want to do this. Why does everything have to include a behind the scenes reel? Why does everything have to include some type of TikTok component? Why does everyone want everything shot in vertical? It's a little bit frustrating right now. And if you're someone out there who maybe did photography as a hobby and turned it into a way to make money and you're discouraged, I completely understand. And I don't really know what the future holds, but if you can't beat them, maybe join them, maybe try to learn a little bit of video, but I understand your frustration. And I think people who are getting into photography as more of a hobby might just be doing it on their own. And then people who are pursuing this more as a business or some way to make a career are looking at photography as more of a skill that's lumped into a bunch of other skills like content creation and videography, rather than looking at this as a singular craft that you do on its own. Now, number 8 on this list, the last thing we got to talk about is an overall lack of innovation for photography technology in the last couple years. When you think back 8 years ago, there was a big increase in the overall interest around photography as cameras got better. There was a race to create mirrorless cameras, create lighter cameras, create lighter lenses, and it had a lot of people excited. But now, for the last couple years, there hasn't been a camera release that really got anyone excited, other than the Fujifilm X100VI or whatever number they're on at this point. That's the only camera that really stood out. And it goes to show that consumers' interest in camera has actually changed as well, away from bigger systems and more towards point and shoot type systems. Right now, we're in a strange time period where people are not really getting excited about going and picking up a new DSLR camera. People are getting excited about going and picking up a new small point and shoot camera, which personally, I love. You all know I'm all about convenience for cameras, but I think this overall lack of innovation and nothing new that's happening just results in an overall lack of interest and excitement around photography, unlike things like even videography or tech. These worlds still have a lot of innovation happening, and it's the reason why people are still taking interest in them. You can only make so many pieces of online content about going out to make photography until it gets a little bit stale. There has to be something new, something exciting to talk about, and I don't necessarily know if that's going to come anytime soon, but for me, I think the key focus here is to just remember why we got into all this. Everything that I talked about on this list at the end of the day is not a great reason to stop making photography. Yes, if you're someone who is economically in a tough spot, by all means, handle your job, go make some money. Don't worry about making pictures. If you don't have time, by all means, don't worry about it. But if you're someone looking at social media and thinking, photography is not popular on social media anymore, I don't want to do this, it's not really a good reason. And you might not have been into photography for the right reasons from the start. I think at the end of the day, photography has turned into what it was supposed to be the entire time, which is just a creative passion that isn't for everyone, because it's really hard to make pictures. Like, it takes a lot of time to get good at photography. It takes a lot of time to understand the process of making pictures, to physically go out and make the pictures, to sit down and edit them. And if in this world, everyone wants something quick and easy, and you have something you can actually put a piece of your soul and personality into and really dive deep into, there's nothing wrong with that, even if it's not the most popular thing out there, and even if photography is in a little bit of a rut right now.